today's video, I am going to tackle about ways or things that can help improve our performance. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the video. So today, we are going to tackle about practice, instructions, focus, and feedback. So let me tackle first the word practice. So practice is performing an activity or an exercise repeatedly or regularly in order to improve or maintain one's proficiency. So say for example, in the field of dancing, in order to achieve a better performance, we need to practice the routine as many as we can, as long as we are satisfied with what we are performing, so that we can be able to achieve a better performance from what we have done before. So another example, in the field of sports, if a team will participate in any competition, whether it's national or international, the team must need to practice their skills in order to achieve a good performance in the field of sports. So to sum up the word practice, it is really important in improving our performances, whether it be in dancing, sports, or any field, because practice makes our performance better and improved. So now, let's proceed to the word instruction. So I believe that instruction is a purposeful direction in a given task. So in simpler understanding, instruction is somehow a direction on how things should be done in order to achieve a common goal or milestone or objectives in a given task. So one common example of instruction is when we are taking an exam. Before we take the exam, we have to read the instruction above the test paper so that we can able to know on what are the things and the directions that we have to follow in taking an exam. And in order to achieve a great score, you have to read the instructions that is above the paper. So another example is that if a dance troupe will join a dance competition, of course, the rules and guidelines is always present. So it serves as an instruction on how a dance troupe will perform or will participate in any competition. It has to be followed in order to have a smooth performance in the competition. So in simpler terms, instruction is one of the great thing and is important thing that can help us improve each of our performance. So for the third term that can help improve our performance is the term focus. Focus is the center of the interest in an activity. One good example of this is when a team will participate in any competition such as sports. A member of every team should have focus in order to achieve the common objective, which is to win the game. So another great example is when a dancer is dancing a dance choreography. A dancer should always have focus in his or her mind in order to not to be disturbed and can perform the dance choreography well. So for the next word that we have to tackle is the word feedback. And as we all know, feedback is telling the performers and how well they perform in an activity or a performance. It can focus on knowledge of results or knowledge of performance and can be intrinsic or extrinsic, positive or can be negative. So as we all know, there are two types of feedback, the intrinsic feedback and the extrinsic feedback. Intrinsic feedback is the physical feel of the movement as it is being performed. It is what is felt by the performer as they execute a skill or a performance. So in simpler understanding, intrinsic feedback is the feedback that is coming from the performer himself, whether he or she is performing the performance well. For extrinsic feedback, it is coming from the external sources in the performance or after the performance. Say for example, teammates, coaches, those are the people who gives extrinsic feedback on the performance of the performer, whether he or she is performing well in every performance. So to sum it up all for the first portion of this educational video, how we can improve our performance is with the help of practice, instruction, following the instructions, having focus on the things, and lastly, by appreciating the feedback, whether it's intrinsic feedback or extrinsic feedback. So for the next portion of this presentation, we are going to tackle about modeling and manual guidance. When we say modeling, it involves making a representation of something or a representation of how an activity should be done. One good example of this is a Zumba instructor. He or she serves as a model on how the dance choreography of the Zumba should be properly executed. And now let's move on to another example of modeling. So in the field of science, let's say the globe. A globe is a representation of how the world looks like. And by looking at the representation of the globe, we humans can analyze and simply internalize on how continents are located and how islands and islets are situated. To sum up the word modeling, it is anything that represents something else or a representation of an activity and how it is being done. So now let's proceed of unlocking the term manual guidance. Well, have you ever always heard the word manual guidance? Manual guidance is when a performer is physically guided or supported by the coach. Let's say for example, manual guidance is provided when a coach guides an athlete's arm to mimic a javelin throw. So in that act, the coach himself is manually guiding an athlete's arm on how to throw the javelin. Another great example of that is when a coach supports a gymnast to do a backflip. In that way, the coach himself is manually guiding the gymnast on how to do a backflip. So in simpler understanding, manual guidance is provided during practice rather than the performance proper. So in manual guidance, it has advantages and disadvantages. So let me tackle first about the advantages. The advantage of having manual guidance is first, it eliminates danger. It builds confidence of the performer who may not be able to gain the feel of the whole task without help and support from manual guidance. Second is fear and anxiety is associated with dangerous or difficult tasks may be reduced if the support is hands-on to the performer. When the task is more complex, it could be broken down into parts. So those explains the advantages of having manual guidance. And now, let's proceed to the disadvantages of having manual guidance. First disadvantage of having manual guidance is detrimental effect on performance if it is overused. Second, once the initial feel is established, too much reliance could begin to interfere with the task, causing the performer to gain bad habits. For the third one, The performer may also begin to depend on the support too much and not being able to do the task without physical help. They lose confidence rather than gaining it. For the fourth one, the coach should be restrict and control the use of this type of guidance to avoid overusage, remembering that this form of guidance can result in the coach being up close and personal to the performer. Such proximity may be off-putting. So those includes the disadvantages of having manual guidance. To wrap up all for the second portion of this video, modeling and manual guidance are ways that can also help in improving our performance. So that ends my entire presentation, and I'm hoping that you guys there having a great day amidst this pandemic situation. Thank you.